Welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and their challenges and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted that we have with us Nick Hurd, who's the Managing Director and Co-founder at ViDrate. So firstly, Nick, thanks so much for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and ViDrate to the audience, that would be wonderful.
Thanks, Chris. Great to be on. Thank you for reaching out and for having us on. As you said, my name's Nick Hurd. I'm the co-founder and managing director of ViDrate. A little bit about ViDrate. So ViDrate is the world's first, to our knowledge, the world's first zero sugar natural hydration drink. So zero sugar, naturally coloured, naturally flavoured, naturally sweetened, without any preservatives or artificial ingredients, and full of vitamins and electrolytes, designed to help people drink more water.
Brilliant. Perfect. I mean, what could be more perfect for anybody to want? That's absolutely fantastic. So it's a really fascinating product, and if people go to your website, they can see a little bit more about the background. But for you specifically, if you could tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got into business, Nick, and why this particular one, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got a fairly varied background, but my background's always been I've had a passion for health, wellness, fitness. So I used to play OK level rugby. Always been into fitness and health. Then I've got a very kind of sporadic and strange journey, but stumbled across fitness modeling of all things. So I actually became a globally published fitness model, and wow. But I just became a big geek in nutrition, in all honesty, just for my own benefit, and started learning everything I could about hydration, about nutrition. And at the same time, I became the head of sales for a large drinks company, which was, in a nutshell, it was essentially like Lucozade Sport, a little bit less sugar, a little bit more natural. And it was at this company that I actually met my business partner, Rob. So Rob has a background in commercial sport, and ViDrate was essentially born from, during my time there, I used to deliver a lot of hydration talks and nutrition talks, and essentially to anyone that would listen, as you'll probably see, I'm quite good at talking and like to talk. And I've delivered these talks to the NHS, fire service, military, professional athletes, education, universities, schools, colleges, whoever would listen, essentially. And one thing became apparent when Rob and I were talking is that people just don't drink water. And it's one of those things, and it's like a crazy thing that everyone knows. When I used to start one of my talks, I'd say, how many people know how important it is to drink water? 100 out of 100 hands went up. Everyone knows. And then the next question, how many of you drink the recommended 6 to 8 glasses of water a day? If 2 hands are left up, I'd be surprised. And if there were 3 hands, I'd guess that one of them said, I've got a medical condition or something like that. And it was just baffling that people just didn't drink water. So we started to do a lot of research into that, and the main reasons are it's just boring. You especially in the UK, we always say the sun shines twice a year here. It's very cold. No one really knows fully why we need to drink water, and I suppose the other thing was that the only products in the world designed to help you drink water until we came along, they're filled with artificial sweeteners, filled with artificial flavors, filled with sugar, filled with calories. And people were kind of like, hold on, I'm trying to be healthier drinking water, and then I'm filling my bottle of water full of junk.
Yep.
So when we looked into it, we realized there wasn't a product in the world we could find that was zero sugar and natural, and as a bonus had some benefit. And
go on, sorry.
Yeah, so we did a lot of research, and when we started, I remember I went to 30 factories, mainly in the UK, who specialize in making products. And the crazy thing is, these factories have formulation scientists and technicians, and you can go and say, I want this product with these ingredients that's blue, and when you shake it 3 times, it turns green or purple or whatever. And they can do it because it's all artificial. And when I started looking, we were told by every single one, the criteria we put for our product is physically impossible. It can't be done. So I actually went away and kind of looked at ingredients and how they're put together and the processes. And about 14 months later, we came up with the initial concept. So that's essentially how ViDrate was born, and we've continuously improved and adapted. So as an example, there was one ingredient that we were told it has to be in there, maltodextrin it's called, and it was the only ingredient in the drink that I wasn't a fan of, but there was nothing that we could do. So started looking and researching that, and 4 years later, in June last year, we're the first product, to my knowledge, that's managed to remove that as well. So we've managed to remove that ingredient, and it took, like I said, nearly 4 years. So wow. Yeah, so we fast becoming well known for when people say that's impossible, it can't be done. It's almost red rag to a bull, and we'll speak soon kind of thing.
Wonderful. I mean, it is quite amazing, I guess, what you've done, but also that it hasn't been done. And I appreciate it's really difficult, but you know, it's as you say, it's the thing that I would, everybody would want, wouldn't they? Something that is natural and it encouraged me to drink more water.
Absolutely, and I think there was. I remember when we went to the one factory that actually said we'll get find the ingredients, we'll have a look, and we'll give you the time of day. Their response to the first call was there was a swear word added in there, which I won't repeat, but you're looking for the holy grail. Right. You are looking for like the perfect product that's not possible. And that's essentially in our eyes what we've developed there. And for me, one of the most important products in the world, just because everyone knows the old saying, you can live weeks without food, you can live a couple of days without water. It is the most important thing, not just for life, but for health. So if you go to the doctors and say, I've got issues with my skin, or I want to lose weight, I'm struggling with sleep, anything you do, the first thing that they'll say is how much water do you drink, or drink more water. It's linked to everything. It's just so important.
Brilliant. So I mean, absolutely fascinating. Just looking at the early days, when you were growing up, was this the sort of thing you saw yourself doing, or did you have a different path planned?
Not at all. So when I was growing up, I come from a family of a long line of builders, essentially, and the idea was my dad owns a very, very small building company, so the idea was to take that over. So the idea was that I was just going to be a builder. Wasn't too bothered about school because that was the goal. That's essentially what I was going to do. That was where I'd set my sights. Although, interestingly, I've heard quite a few stories of when I was younger. There's always been, I suppose, you could call it an entrepreneurial side of me there. So I remember, this is one that I remember when eBay first came about. I used to go into Poundland and I'd buy the best things that I could find were car parts and little blind spot mirrors. I'd sell for £1 and then put them on eBay for £5-6. Brilliant. I remember I was too young to have a bank account, so I used my stepdad's bank account to put the stuff on for the money to go in, and did quite well on that. And I was actually talking to my mum, was telling me a story the other day that some kids on the street came and said, "Oh, can we buy an ice lolly?" And my mum was saying, what do you mean buy an ice lolly? And they said, "Oh, Nick sells us ice lollies." So I'd worked out that there was a bit of a demand for this unbeknown to my mum. She was buying the ice lollies, putting them in the freezer, and I was charging them out to people on the street. But I think she said I was about 8 or 9, something like that. So I think there's always been that there, and it's just kind of grown. But a lot of what I've done personally and the way that we work things here are built from negative experiences. So a lot of what we do and what we implement, both with our kind of staff, with the mentality and the ethos here, from the negative experiences we've had. So anyone that comes to us that's had a background working at other companies, one of the first things that he said is, I can't believe how good of an environment it is to work here and how laid back it is as well.
Brilliant. And that's great, isn't it? You take all the, well, it's good. You take some good stuff from what you've learned, but also reverse the negative and do it. So looking at the sort of the development of the company and over time, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome, Nick?
Biggest challenges, I'd say the biggest challenges that we've had are around educating customers mainly.
Right.
And when we say that, I always say that the phrase I always use, we've picked in some ways the worst marketplace in the world to launch a drink and a hydration product. As I said, it's dull, it's rainy outside here, it's the sun shines twice a year. No one really understands electrolytes here. Yep. People are starting to be more switched on with health and reducing sugar. People don't really drink enough water because the sun's not out. We're doing a lot of international now, and there you go to anywhere, Europe, for example, especially the warm places. You go and you mention electrolytes, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I take electrolytes." And then they know a bit more about water, and you mention stevia or natural ingredients. Like, "Oh yeah, I love stevia. You know, we use that already." Whereas for the first 2-3 years with ViDrate, we'd say, "Oh, we sweeten with stevia," and people would, you know, turn around and say, "Who's he? I've never heard of him," kind of thing. And it was. So the education piece has been the hardest and most expensive, where a lot of products, you know, if you're selling a fairly simple, straightforward product, people know what it is. So you do an advert saying this is, I don't know, a hole puncher. People know what it is, whereas we're kind of having to do that whole education process. I'd say that's been the most challenging thing.
That would make sense. Yeah, it's creating the market, isn't it? It's saying you need this. You know, this is the challenge. It's a great product solves a problem, but if people don't perceive a problem, then we're not going to buy the product. So educating people must be important. But I guess, you know, it feels like people are more and more aware. I would have thought over the last sort of 5 to 10 years of especially of water being so key.
Absolutely. I mean, so a good example when I first, one of the other things, so one of the reasons that we launched and the reason that we're in a sachet, for example, was I remember I was once at Chester University and doing a sampling session, and the product that I already did was a ready to drink product. And I was sat at stood at the sampling desk, and I was just looking at it and I was thinking, it's crazy that every ready to drink product, if you name one, that much of the product, 99.9% is water. Yep. The ingredients, the taste, the flavor is that much. And I was sat there thinking, there's water coolers legally every workplace, every education center, everywhere in the UK has to have water coolers and drinking water. Most places around the world now. I was in India a week ago, launching with partners, and everywhere has water coolers or water filtration systems now, and everyone's carrying these. And I was thinking, the big issue that we had when we had a ready to drink product to sell, myself and Rob. So we had a spreadsheet, which is one of the reasons ViDrate was born. And if I got a negative comment from a catering manager, it's too big, it's too bulky, or for the weight of your drinks, I can get a kilogram of chicken, which I can charge 3 times more, or the shelf life's not good enough. It all went in a spreadsheet, and that essentially went to make this perfect product. But the big thing was the size of these bottles. The cost is in the water and the plastic bottle that you're transporting, and it's everywhere. And then I remember I once went for a drink with a guy when we first had the product, and I said, single-use plastic's going to be the big thing. We need to get ahead of it now, reduce single-use plastic. And I remember he was laughing at me, and he said, nobody cares about single-use plastic. No one really cares. I'm just going to go to the shop and get my bottle and throw it away. And literally, I think it was that year or the year after, David Attenborough did the Blue Planet, and everyone just light bulb. And I remember the first time it really hit me about the change. My niece at the time, we was at a pub, and she must have been 8 at the time, maybe 9. And I remember my brother had a straw in his drink. And I remember she turned to him and said, "Dad, what about the turtles?" And she'd seen a video of a turtle with a straw in its nose. And I was literally that was the moment where I was like, what we've been saying now. And everyone used to, for the first 2-3 years, when Rob and I kind of explained, everyone laughed at us and was like, "That'll never take off. No one's bothered about plastic and no one's going to lug one of these around." And then again, probably thanks to Love Island, these became really popular, and not just these, but it became almost cool to have one of these. It's like, if you've got a reusable bottle, you're almost saying, like, I care about the environment, which is now cool. It didn't used to be. It's it's an interesting, very, very interesting. But we've had a lot of that, a lot of it'll never work.
Fantastic. That's no, it's fascinating. Really is. And what would you say are the biggest things you've learned about business in general, Nick?
Biggest things that I've learned that we've learned about business. For me, the biggest thing, the biggest lesson is the people that you're surrounded by and your staff. I was actually talking to a friend, and they were saying something the other day. The thing that I'd say sets ViDrate apart from most businesses and brands, and we get this a lot, and it's probably the biggest compliment ever. If you came into our office, I was saying to you before we went live, we've got an open plan office. So the warehouse, the fulfillment, the customer service, the marketing, myself, we're all in an open plan building. And we've purposefully done that. And I was saying there's an office that doesn't get used. But if you walked in here and you spoke to any of the staff that were here, and we have it a lot where people come and they'll say, "Oh, so who's that person?" And I'll explain the role. And I thought they were one of the owners, because everyone's so passionate about the brand and about the product.
Brilliant.
So I'd say one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is you're better to find one member of staff that really gets it and that's really keen and motivated than 4 people. And for us, it's all about kind of finding staff that are hungry and kind of they're thinking about that long term, which I think is more difficult to find nowadays. But we've got a very, very small team. We punch massively above our weight, but a really, really young, hungry, dedicated team. And at one point, I know we were up to, and a lot of the advice that we got was, the more staff you've got, the quicker you grow. So at one point, we were up to about 13 members of staff. Now we've got, I think we've got 6 full-time, and then 1 or 2 that were meant to be part-time. What usually happens with us, that people come, so Jess, who does our customer service, she was in between jobs and said, "Have you got anything at the moment?" She'd just finished uni, and we said, "Look, we've got half a day here and there for you." Within 3 weeks, Jess was full-time in fulfillment, and now Jess heads up our our customer service. And that's what usually tends to happen. So we usually say, "Oh, there might be a day, half a day here or there in fulfillment," and then it goes to 2 to 3 to full time. And because we're a rapidly growing business, the exciting thing is people can almost grow into different roles and merge.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, it's interesting. One of the things we talk about recruitment is that traditional recruitment typically is we recruit on experience, but ultimately we sack on attitude. And so why not recruit on attitude and match to the vision and the values of the organization? Because then you're going to get people that want to learn or want to do it our way. So no, that fits very strongly, I think, with what you found. And as you said, you're better off having a gap than somebody that's not that's not engaged in the organization in that role.
Absolutely, and I think it is. I think it's more and more difficult, and especially we find with a generational style of thing. When I was from probably 18 to 25, it was literally even though I wasn't in that kind of role and it was salaried, my laptop didn't close. It was kind of 80-90 hours a week. And I suppose on one side it was no remuneration for that extra time, and on the other, not even a thank you or well done. I remember I was once with a sportswear company, and I think I'd been set a target to bring a couple of schools, and I brought one of the biggest independent schools in the country on, and usually those deals take 3 years. It took me 3 months, and the response was, "What else are you working on?" And I was like, not even a stop to say, "Well done. What else are you working on?" So I think that's, but yeah, again, that's one of the things that we've kind of built differently, and hopefully the team do say that one of the things we do a lot is kind of say well done and pats on the back and that kind of thing.
So important, absolutely so important. And Nick, you're probably aware we're a business coaching organisation, so we coach as part of delivering what we do. And I'm keen to know who are the best coaches you will have worked with, whether that's business, sport, or life in general.
Yeah, I think it's I suppose that's a fairly tricky one that I'd say, because there's been a lot of people that have had good touch points. So we're very fortunate that we've got some very good shareholders and investors on board that have got a wealth of experience, and we're very lucky that I get a lot of time with them. So I was speaking to one of them literally 2 days ago. They're on the way to I think I just said, "Can I pick your brains?" And then there was a WhatsApp video call, and they were all suited and booted with a bow tie on, going to a fancy event and just picking up that time. So we're very, very lucky that we get to pick the brains of these people that have been there, done that, worked with some of the biggest companies in the world. But I'd say in terms of coaching, in terms of a specific person, I can't really think of anyone off the top of my head. But what I'd say is a lot of what we've done and we've built, and the same with Rob, is based on previous negative experiences. Yeah. So we've had I've worked at a lot of companies where they've just not paid, or they've paid 3 months late for expenses, or they've paid a week late for salaries and things like that. We've never done that. Again, just the not saying thank you and well done, and all of that kind of thing. So I'd say that I've had a lot of people where I've sponged information off that have been in managerial roles, but at the same time, I'd say 90% of what I've learned is how not to do business, or how I wouldn't like to do it, which for me is as much coaching as somebody saying. But again, I'd say that the biggest help is the shareholders and investors that we got are absolutely amazing at that kind of thing. We're very, very lucky.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And have you picked up any favourite sort of quotes or sayings that you fall back on a regular basis that you use?
There's two that are funny enough. There's one that I heard the other day. There's one that I was actually speaking to someone on a podcast a few months ago, and it was kind of it's stuck, and we use it a lot, and it's kind of our personal one within the business. Somebody asked me to describe kind of how we work and what we do, and my thing was, I think the phrase that I used was, what we say is get things as close to perfect as possible, and then push forward, and then improve and continuously go. It was just one of those things that I said off the cuff, and said just without thinking, and it seemed to really resound with people. We've got a very tight-knit community here at ViDrate, very, very tight-knit, and one of the people actually stuck with them that much, they've actually got the phrase tattooed on the forearm, I believe. And it was just and she literally said, "It's just what I needed to hear." And so that's a good one for us, because I think that the point behind that is, if you try and get things perfect before launching, you'll never launch. And I remember I read that in a book or heard it on an audio book. Get it as close as you can, then you launch it, and then you keep perfecting. Our product's amazing, and I know for a fact next year we're going to improve it somehow, like with the maltodextrin. But the best one that I've heard from someone else was about 2 weeks ago. A new international partner was saying that their motto is fail fast. And I just loved it. And they kind of said, rather than sit around and and ah on a decision, go with it, do it, test it. And if it works, keep it going. If it doesn't, make the decision fairly quickly and either stop it or change it. And that's exactly what, especially as a new company, that's what you've got to do. As a growing company, you can't be afraid to fail. And if anything, for us, we take failure as a bit of a bonus. When it comes to especially marketing, for example, as a new company, if you're not failing, you're not testing the boundaries, you're not doing enough testing. So I say to Ollie, who runs all of our marketing now, great guy, been with us since he was 17, perfect example of what we were saying. He's now nearly 20. And we kind of say, keep testing. And if it's not working, turn it off. If it is working, turn it up, essentially.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah, it's bang on. I always remember in my first business, we were moving so fast. I came to the realization that we've got to make a decision and take action, because inaction just it doesn't work when you're going fast. So you sort of make the best decision you can, and then make it work by dint of your actions afterwards. It's like, we'll use your intelligence, do the best you can, but you'll never know if it's right till you've tried it.
And I think that's one thing that's worth noting as well, which kind of answers a couple of the questions you've asked on that. The good thing with Rob, my business partner and the co-founder, and myself, we are aligned very well, but we complete chalk and cheese in some ways, right. And that works very well. So yep. Rob is the guy that's like, let's do this, let's go for it. I'm the guy that's, let me make a spreadsheet, and I'm going to put everything in there, and then I'll make a spreadsheet on that spreadsheet based on another spreadsheet. And if the numbers come out perfect, we'll do it. And the good thing with that is, and we both kind of getting more in sync as things grow, but the good thing there is, if it was Rob leading the way, we'd be trying everything, and we'd be failing a lot, and there'd be a lot of money there. If I was doing everything, if I was doing it my way, we'd have never sold a sachet, because I'd be like, let me just make sure this is perfectly right and that the metrics are there. And it works very well, because what usually tends to happen is, we kind of, if Rob pushes more than I do, it usually means, and I back down, essentially, it's right, and that's the decision to make. If I'm the one that's like, hold on, something doesn't sit right, today, we 4 years in now, 2 years fully, kind of full time, but we've never had one where like, oh, we should have gone the other way. So it works perfectly.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And taking your point about failure, it's our founder, Brad Sugars, who's a very, very successful entrepreneur. He told me a long time ago, it's always stuck with me. And he said he believed he was as successful as he was because he'd made more mistakes than anybody else he knew, not despite it. It was just that willingness to take that step, as you say. Absolutely. He'd do his research and as well, but you've got to take the step and accept failure as part of success, I guess.
Yeah. There was a quote, I can't for the life of me think of it, but it was something the other day, and it was something about making mistakes, but essentially saying that essentially it was a really, really nice, thought-provoking way of saying, if you make every mistake's not a mistake, it's a lesson. But it was said really good. I wish I could remember it, but I know it's completely pointless and no point me even saying it, but it was it's based on that. It's so important to do it and not to be afraid to do that.
Absolutely. I think there is a quote, I believe from Nelson Mandela, actually, which was something like, I never lose, I either win or I learn. And I think, I think that's it. As long as we learn from our mistakes, which is your whole point about learning from bad experiences previously and implementing. So I think all that makes sense. And speaking of learning, what would you say you've learned about yourself, Nick, through your journey so far?
I think as soon as you've said that, the reason I nearly mentioned it before is that the phrase that pops up a lot when I'm speaking to people, and not just people from Yorkshire, it seems to pop up a lot, is you're a very persistent little bugger. And that's the exact phrase. The amount of people use it, whether it's suppliers or and I think that's. And again, I suppose Rob and myself are very similar in that respect, that we're known as we're a pain in the backside for anyone that works with any suppliers, anyone that does the product, because people will come back. So when we made these, for example, so these till point packs that go in Holland and Barrett and places, they sent them over and like, oh, what do you think to this? And we was like, so it's specially developed to us to the sizes of Holland and Barrett's storage and things, and
Right.
was like, yeah, it's fine, but you've got laminate on there, so it's difficult to recycle. We're not having it. And then we once made clip strips, and they came back with plastic. And like, no, you're not got to get rid of that. We don't want plastic. And they were like, well, non-plastic clip strips isn't a thing. So it was like, well, let's make it a thing. And at the time there wasn't anything. So I suppose, that's it. The phrase is a persistent little bugger, where we kind of take no, and it's kind of excites us, both of myself and Rob. When people say no, it's like and I think that's another phrase. When people say no, we take it as not yet, if that makes sense. So I suppose, and that's the thing that you've got to, when we first started ViDrate, if a customer, for example, said, I don't like coconut, Robert, well, we launched with tropical and mixed berry, and if someone said, I don't like the tropical, Rob and I were like, oh, like, all this time we've done this, and, Sandra doesn't like tropical, and we'd beat ourselves up about it. And then we got to the point where it's like, you can't please everyone. We'll have it where if we speak to someone or we get a Facebook comment, and Facebook's the worst, because people just don't realize there's a person that's put a lot of effort into the product, that's done a lot of development, and for, like, with our product, for a genuine reason to help people, and to kind of all the products we make are based on what our community ask for, and the flavors they choose, everything's done on that. And then someone will just throw a comment. And I think that's the other thing that you got to realize, that you just can't be all things to all people. You've got to be very, very tough skinned. And when people say something about the product or about a flavor, not to take it, but it took us a long time to get to that point. And it might be that people just don't like tropical, or it might be that we turn around and say, well, what do you usually drink? Well, I drink really strong coffee and Coke, full fat Coke. But it's a completely different product. It's gonna take time to do it. Yep. So yeah, definitely.
Absolutely brilliant. No, that all makes sense. So Nick, it must be really exciting times for you, as you say. You've been out to India and just recently, and I know lots of things are going on for you. What does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you face, if any?
I think Rob and I have always had this, and again, everyone's laughed at us, but we've always had this dream almost, that and there's a video of us somewhere where we're talking about it probably 3-4 years ago, where we're saying that the goal and the dream it would be, when you walk into a supermarket in 5-10 years, that the products that are ready to drink, or the majority of them, especially still ones that are, I won't name, well, I mean, like products like, I don't know, Drench or Oasis and things that could be made similar to ours, that instead of being filled with fridges that are using all the energy, all the emissions from transporting the products and the bottles, and although a lot of them are recyclable now, most of them aren't recycled and go to landfill, when there's no reason why people can't be doing this. So we're very different as a company, that we kind of welcome that. We'd welcome more products to be doing what we're doing. So there'd be nothing better in my eyes that this became the norm for products moving forward. More competition for us, but that's just part and parcel of it. And then, so that's kind of the overall dream and goal. But in terms of us personally, international's a big thing that we're looking at the moment. As we said, we're looking at warmer countries where people are. So India, perfect example. Very, very hot. I think it was about 30 degrees, 35 degrees while I was out there. It was, a lot of people know about electrolytes because it's so warm. You have to be drinking water, and it's so humid. Water's not really enough. A lot of people are very clued up on reducing sugar. A lot of people queued up on natural sweeteners, but the sweeteners as they know it, with stevia and things like that, taste atrocious. We've done a very good job and a lot of work on that, so people can't believe we're actually natural, but UK and there. So we're working on a lot of that. We're in talks now with very close. We've just started distributing into New Zealand, Australia, India's about to start, the Caribbean. I've not got to go and see most of these places, unfortunately, but I'm offering my own services to go sample.
Brilliant.
And then we're talking to the Philippines, Vietnam, South Korea, Jordan. The goal is as many of these kind of countries as we can do. Important to note with that all of our products UK made, everything, all of our packaging, all of our products, they're all made within a 2-hour drive of where we are. That's a big thing for us. But having said that, the goal was always to make everything in the UK and support local, and also because of obviously the environmental impact. But we've been looking, so the idea is in time we'd potentially make locally in India, because one, it does what we say, it kind of supports local, and there's part of me that thinks we big on sustainability. Shipping a product for water over water just baffles me a little bit. Yes. So we've already found a packaging manufacturer in India that will make for there. We're talking to factories already. So there's big things. International is a big part of it.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Very, very exciting. And now I'm really keen to know, with your experiences and stuff, what you'd say to anyone that's thinking of going into business right now.
I just say go for it. Know what you're getting yourself in for, but definitely go for it. I think there's no better time to do it. There's no, especially if you can do it something on e-commerce, there's no better time than now to do it. I'd say people are more familiar than ever. There's not been a time where there's less risk with drop shipping and things like that, if that's something you wanted to start in. But I'd say go for it. Make sure you put a lot of thought into it. However long you think it's going to take to get things to where you want it, double it. I'd also say, and the biggest thing is have that support network there. I've had a lot of friends and family who have kind of said over the years, you're not going to do it, it's not possible. And luckily for me, that's kind of for every 3 people that tell me I can't do it, I'm kind of, the name goes down in a book to say, give me 5 years. I can't wait to come back and let you know. But the people around you, so how my wife puts up with me never being at home and having to travel, and the times starting business where we're like, I don't know how we're going to pay the mortgage this month, but yeah, I'd say go for it. Plan for every eventuality. Yeah. Best thing to do is to get started and start small, but that if you've got people around you that will back you and that kind of thing, definitely go for it. But at the same time, don't be disheartened when you tell people your idea and people just say it's not going to work. Because if you, as long as you test it and you've done enough, you will get people. The thing we found, people just don't like change. If something's new and unfamiliar, straight away people will say it's not possible. And one of the things actually one of the other phrases that I use is, don't take advice from somebody that's not in the position you're getting advice on. It's one of my big things. Don't take relationship advice from somebody that's been divorced 15 times or that can't hold friendship relationship or whatever. Don't take advice on starting a business up from somebody that's either not done it, not thought about it, or I wouldn't say just from that point of view, for somebody that can't manage finances or anything like that. You've got to be very, very careful. There's so many people out there that will tell you can't do it and it can't be done. And I still get now, why are you putting so much time and effort in when you don't? Why are you putting so much time and effort in when the return that you're getting doesn't allow you to do the things that we can do? And I say to my wife regularly, like, we're not doing this for now, for this year. We're doing this for 2, 3, 5 years time, and we're doing this for my 2 little boys as well, to learn that they can kind of go out there and work really, really hard, and it'll pay off.
Brilliant, absolutely love it. Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? It's I think Arnie said it best, didn't he? I think he said ignore the naysayers. I think in his obviously Austrian accent. Yeah. I'm not going to try it, but yeah, there's so many people that just will. And the only advice they've got is they couldn't do it. That's the reality, is you can't do that. No, what they said is they can't do that. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you can't do that. That's fine, but I'm going to do it.
Absolutely.
And, it's as you say, take advice is really key. I often say to people, because we talk about investment in advice and coaching and stuff. And it's like the most expensive advice you ever get is free advice from an idiot. Because that's there's plenty of that out there.
I was just going to say there's plenty of that around. I think there's a phrase my dad used to say. It's something like there's more houses that have been built in a pub than on a building site as well, where everyone's happy to tell you all this kind of thing. And it's so true. And it is, and people are very, very opinionated and very believable a lot of the time. There's probably been 4 or 5 times where I've got to the point thinking, do I really want to do this? And it's because people have been kind of in your face and like kind of repeating negative things. If you can cut any negativity out, that's one of the first things that I did a couple of years ago, and it's made such a difference.
It's interesting. My coach is he's director of coaching for Action Coach. He's also an ex Olympic badminton coach, a guy called Dave Vincent. And one of the things he came to talk to an event with us recently, was that the brain puts 3 times as much value on a negative thought as it does a positive. So ultimately, to get the balance, we've got to think 3 times as many positive thoughts to match the negative ones that will come, because they are going to come. But that's where positive thinking and consistently celebrating our successes and remembering that we're doing a great thing is so key.
I think that's it. There's the human body and human mind's designed to catastrophize, isn't it? It's designed to basically back in the day, all the the books that you read and things like that is we've been basically created because hundreds of years ago we were being chased down by a lion, whereas we're not now. And when you go in to do public speaking or anything, that's the same fear that you get then. And it is, and exactly as you said, it kind of, the more we have a really good phrase in here, and it's obviously not ours, but again, another one, and the guys use it all the time. Eat the frog is literally just the first thing that we do is do that, and it became. I remember when I explained it to one of the guys in fulfillment, and I hear it every 4 times a day now. Brilliant. If anyone says, "Oh, there's something I've got to do," you just hear "eat the frog." But again, that's that thing. The longer you sit and think about it, or something that's negative, the worse it gets and reinforces it. Just get kind of, as we said, just make a start and get it done.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I think it's Brian Tracy, isn't it? That's his book. Eat the Frog. Bang on. And Nick, if you started the business again, is there anything significant you think you might do differently?
I think the biggest thing is that staffing, the staffing thing. A perfect example, I've said it a few times. So Ollie, it's the same with all the guys, I've got a story similar to this, but Ollie's is the best that stands out. Ollie was 17 and I was looking for an apprentice. And I said to the guys, the apprenticeship guys, I don't want CVs. I don't like CVs because I can tell you what everyone's going to write before they've done it, because it's all a template they've got offline. So I was like, I want them to do a video handheld to the phone, nothing crazy. I want up to 30 seconds to a minute, no editing, no reading a script, ums and ahs, absolutely fine. Just leave them in there. Brilliant. Everyone calls me Ander because I say it and all the time. So I did a sample video of what I wanted, and I posted it to LinkedIn just because I thought it was funny that I'd posted a bit about the story, and the thumbnail, as always was me with one eye closed, kind of dribbling down myself, and put this funny story. And within 10 minutes, Ollie was 17, just gone at the time. He'd bought LinkedIn Premium, sent me a direct message at 17. He'd said, my cousin knows your business partner. I've seen that you mentioned you want a video. He'd not seen the video. I've seen you wanted it. Here's my video. And I remember I rang my business partner and went, I've not opened it, but this is the guy. And they were like, how do you know? And I was like, the fact of just having that mental capacity at 17. At 17, I was chasing girls around, like chasing girls around or on a park bench somewhere, just at 17 to be going through that. And he was the first person we've taken on and did an apprenticeship. He now handles the most important marketing aspects of the business, really bought into it. 2 days ago, he came back to me and said, I want more, give me more. I want to do more work and responsibility. And again, I think that is the big thing. The staffing's the big thing that we'd have done differently get those people. And it goes back to what you were saying. We've had a lot of negative people that, for example, when Ollie wants to sit, we've got a thing where Ollie used to get in at 6 in the morning because I get in early, and he used to leave at 6 at night. And I was saying to him, you'll be better coming in at 8 and finishing at 4, and you'll get more done in a shorter time. And I had to force him not to come in early and leave late. And it was obviously more productive, but he used to get from people that were here at the time, why are you putting more hours in than you paid for? And why are you doing anything? And I say to the guys that I'm very open. I'll say to all of the staff, if you jump ship now, with the experience you'll get paid more than we're able to pay you here, because we're still growing. But I guarantee you in 5 years, you're going to be paid a heck of a lot more here with share options than you will anywhere else. And I can't wait for that day when the people that have moved on and that are still, in the guys' ears saying, why don't you move on? I can't wait for that time where they're like, Nick and Rob, they stayed true to the promise, and I'm so glad that we held out. But finding people that do that now is so difficult.
Wonderful. I can't wait. I'm really, I'm there with you on that one. And finally, funnily enough, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you? We talked about a 17-year-old you, but what would be the advice for an 18-year-old you if you could go back and do it?
I'd say that the biggest thing is aim higher. That is the biggest advice that I'd give. Like you, a lot of the time, you kind of, I think you were saying you put a lot of people put a cap on their abilities, and I definitely did that. I remember once when I said that I wanted to be a builder, one of my teachers at school said, why do you want to do that? And like, you could do so much more. And I got so offended. And I was like, my dad's a builder and his dad was a builder and everything. My dad used to say it to me. He was like, you don't want to be with the retirement age going up at 60, 65 on a building site or whatever it was. And it wasn't until I started this business, I was like, I get what there was a science teacher called Dave Walker. I'll never forget it. At the time, I wanted to to really go let loose at him, but now I get what he was saying, and so I'd say aim higher. And the second thing is just take that step. There's a really good analogy, and I can't, for some reason, that is probably when I first heard it, but one of our ambassadors and shareholders, a guy called Kenton Cool, who's the world leading high altitude mountaineer. So he's done Everest 16 times, more than any non-Nepali in the world, going for 17 in a couple of weeks. But with that, it is literally if you stand at the bottom of Everest and look up at the top, you're never going to start moving. Take that first step, and then the end goal, but until you take that first step. So those are the two things I'd say: aim higher, start moving quicker, and just take the step, work it out as you go along. Because as you said, the thing that you learn is that you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but another one of our mottos is I'd rather regret the things I did than the things that I didn't do.
Absolutely. I think that's really, sound lesson for anyone. It is absolutely, it's the things we didn't do that we regret, isn't it? It's rarely the things that we do.
Absolutely.
That's been absolutely fascinating and really interesting and exciting. I think the word I'm thinking is it's just very, very exciting. So it will be firstly great to come, maybe swing by in 6-12 months and just see where we are next, if that's okay. And for anyone watching, if they wanted to get in touch with you or the company, what would be the best way to do that?
So if the website ViDrate.com would be the best way. We've got lots of methods to reach out to us on live chat, and the contact details there. For me personally, it's nick.hird, HIRD, at ViDrate.com as well. Brilliant.
Well, again, thanks so much, and best of luck. I don't think you need it, but best luck for the expansion that you're going through.
Perfect. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.